Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's been a while. Um, Thank you for tuning in tonight. We're going to be on for a while. I wanted to come and talk. It's been a minute. Again, thank you for coming in. Want you to come on in. I wanted to discuss some things. It's been a couple of months since I've been on. I feel a little bit nervous because I haven't done this in so long. I've been really busy in the kitchen working. I am, yes, I've been at Cane and Coconut, but those of y'all local in DC, um, I've been I've been in the kitchen, y'all, making food, providing the fresh juices, of course, the juice cleanse. So we're going to talk about the juice cleanse tonight. Um, it's that season again. We're coming upon a very important pivot, the fall equinox. So I want to give you all my thoughts on that. But really, the topic at hand is we're going to talk about nuts. And the question I want to pose is: are nuts the reason that you cannot be raw or stay raw? Now, obviously, the question before that is, really, this question is for those who are striving to be raw, who have struggled. And I thought about this as a topic because nuts, they definitely sometimes get a bad rap. But in my experience, 20 plus years of eating this way, of making the food, providing a cuisine, usually with the raw vegan lifestyle, nuts are very important. Let me just say it like that. They are can be the make or break, which is why I'm posing the question tonight. Are nuts the reason that you have trouble either becoming raw or staying raw? Now, one of the things uh, we always want to remind ourselves is the 5 keys to becoming and staying raw. So I did a video on this some years back. What was my 5 keys to becoming and staying raw? Because this really sort of ties in for someone who's looking to become raw, stay raw. Obviously, if we want to touch on reasons why we want to become raw, obviously, I mean, in my humble opinion, is really the only healthy way to be to if you're a vegan and or you want to be vegan. In terms of becoming a healthy vegan, it is really, I mean, you got to be doing mostly raw or all raw if you want to become if you want to be vegan and healthy. So so um so again, if we're looking at the 5 keys really quickly, the 5 keys are: one, you got to become green, and becoming green means you got to make green leafy vegetables a big part of your diet. All right. I would say at least, especially in the beginning, at least 50 to 70% of the food you eat has some greens in there: green smoothies, green juices, green salads, um, like that. So becoming green, you got to detox. So detoxing is going to speed things up. So by detox, what does that mean? Well, for me, it doesn't necessarily mean like going on a herbal detox. What it means for me is to basically stop eating and do juicing. And we're going to get into that in terms of like fasting. Again, we got the fall equinox next week. So again, I definitely had to get on here and talk and really try to give my message, let you know it's that time. This is a very important time. The time, again, this season is critical as we move into. We're really coming upon the end of 2022. I mean, when we hit the fall equinox, it's like it's really the end of the year. So again, that detoxing, and again, we're gonna circle. I'm gonna intertwine all of these topics, but right now we're talking about the 5 keys. We're on number 2. First was becoming green. Second, detoxification. Third, education. So reading books on fasting, on foods, nutrition. Watching videos like this. Education is primary. It is a form of nourishment and food. Number 4, your social crew, your relationships. Who is in your company? The company you keep is going to determine the direction you go. So that's really kind of self-explanatory. And for a lot of us, that could be the make or break. And then last but not least, becoming a chef. So later on in this video, I'm going to give some tips in terms of using nuts effectively and efficiently to, oh, you said my volume is low. I hope that's better. I think I was covering the mic here on the phone. Let me adjust it on the Instagram. I hope that's better. Yeah, I hope that's better. I don't have professional setup here, so yeah, I have to bear with me. So we got the 5 keys to becoming and staying raw, and we're talking about nuts, and nuts really, I feel, for most people, being a difference maker. So first, let's talk about how and why nuts are so important. Well, especially being plant-based. If you're going to be plant-based, you're going to be vegan, and then you want to be healthy. Again, we always fruits are one thing, and we understand that we are fruitarians, but the fruitarian umbrella is broad. Being a fruitarian doesn't mean just eating fruits. It means eating green leaves, especially green leafy vegetables, and even vegetables for the most part. Flowers, maybe some roots. I'm not a big roots eater. I will do some ginger for flavor, and I'm a fan of ginseng, but that pretty much is it for me. What else is under the fruitarian umbrella or rainbow is definitely nuts. Nuts are really a type of, I look at it as a type of fruit. Nuts are really sort of definitely by nutritional breakdown is going to be more fat than anything else in most of your nuts. So the thing is that if we're eating to get not just sustain, but have a sense of like, okay, we ate and we have something that hits the stomach. Because when we eat fruits are going to basically run through the system. They're not going to stay on our stomach for very long. They're pretty much, most of your fruits are anywhere from 70, 80, 90 to almost close to 100% water. So you're pretty much, when you're eating a lot of fruits, unless you're eating fruits that have a higher content like olives and avocado, they're pretty much going to, most of your fruits are going, is really, you're like just eating water. So nuts obviously is that dense uh form of nutrition that's going to slow things down as far as digestion. It's going to make you feel like, okay, I ate something. But I'm going to give you some tips because, obviously with our nuts, there is, other than common allergens, nuts can be very tricky. And that's why I wanted to talk about it. But really, to highlight the good, they definitely, on the fruitarian diet, they're going to provide balance. Again, as I said, most of our fruits are pretty much packaged water. All right. So, when it's time to eat something that's going to stay on your stomach for more than 20 minutes, we got to consider nuts in some form of fashion. All right. And even more so than vegetables, because even though vegetables have a higher protein and maybe even in some instances fat than fruits, nuts are sort of the complement, or what fills in the blank between our fruits, our vegetables, and then so it's like, so really just imagine the triangle. We got our fruits. We got our fruits, let's say, at the top of the triangle. We got our vegetables, or our greens, because when we talk about vegetables, we talk about mainly green leaves. Obviously, it can include things like um, vegetable fruits, but I like to keep the vegetable fruits with the fruits. Like, for example, squashes and tomatoes, cucumbers. I consider those all. I like to keep them in the fruit category. Again, most of those things are primarily water, and then um, we have our vegetables. Yeah, for whatever reason, my sound on my phone is I think it's this phone. Apple be playing games. They be wanting you to upgrade your phone, so they start playing tricks on you. So I mean, I'm hip to the hustle. Yeah, even a company like that, they got infinite money. Again, to keep that money coming in, they got to keep you upgrading. So I think that's what's going on with the phone here on Instagram. If y'all on Instagram, check me on YouTube if you want to hear it better. I'm saying it's still low here, unfortunately. So if you go to my YouTube, you can see me streaming live, and the sound is way better. All right, cool. So where was I? Yes. So nuts, and the importance of nuts in your diet. Now, again, so we're talking about basically imagining that triangle of nutrition. We got our fruits providing primarily our vitamins and healthy sugars and water. We got our greens providing primarily our minerals, our healthy salts, and protein. Yes, protein is from our greens and our vegetables. And then our nuts is providing also minerals, but also in the form of fat. So again, we need all of these things: fat, sugar, protein, and a nice balance. And if you're having struggles staying, becoming, or it could be the nuts. Because the thing is with the nuts, the way we get them, when I was a kid, I can remember we had to crack them open with, we had to shell them ourselves with a nutcracker. So, now today you can go and you see the nuts. They got machines now that do all of that, that make it really convenient for if you go and you just pull up your bag and just, release that lever and then fill up that bag. So, we're going to talk about different kinds of nuts. And I'm going to give you my tips in terms of eating nuts, because nuts can be like any high protein, high fat content food. If you don't do it correctly, it can do more harm than good. Okay, so we're gonna really go over those tips, but pretty much it's a condensed form of nutrition, just like any really it is our steak. It is the prime rib of the plant-based kingdom is our nuts. If we're looking at, all of these, because the thing is, like, no matter what diet you on, where you're getting that more condensed form of nutrition can be the make or break for any diet. Whether you're on an omnivore diet, whether you're on pescatarian, vegetarian, uh, cooked vegan, and raw vegan as well. Okay, so from my experience, and this is what I want to come on here and really talk about, is discussing like how to do it in the best form and in the best way so we can get the best results. Okay, so let's understand that the main thing with our nuts, as I said, our nuts by volume and what they're bringing for the most part is healthy fats, not necessarily protein, and definitely not our sugars. It's the fat. And fats, the issue with fats, obviously, just mentioning the word fat, it's almost like a negative connotation, right? It's people, to say a person is fat, number one, that's like a almost like a curse word. It's not a nice gesture, right? But obviously fat in the body in a healthy way, again, is it's that natural oil. It's that and the oil of anything is the essence. We have a whole industry and a whole line of products called essential oils. So those oils it's almost like the heart of any food. So when we're looking at any oil, right, we want to have it. And again, the biggest thing is having it the form, right? So sugar, salt, fat, which, and if we have in the best form, these are the greatest things, right? Sugar, salt, and fat. We need all of those, right? So the form is everything. And with our nuts, this gives us an opportunity to get healthy, heart friendly forms of fat, because we know those with heart disease, and heart disease being either the number one or the number two, or definitely in the top three killer in this country and probably around the world. People are eating obviously unhealthy forms of fat. It's clogging up the arteries, and heart disease, heart attacks, strokes, high blood pressure. All of these things because of what? We're not eating fat. We desire fat. If any, especially when you look at, we have the different, we all have different metabolisms. Some of us can process food more effectively than others. And the thing is that, for someone like me, who has been pretty much on the thin side most of my life, I don't have much issue probably compared to the next person who can probably gain weight easy to process fat. All right, so I'm saying all that to say that I enjoy eating avocados and olives and nuts. So this is a really key topic for me, but especially, but it's really for all of us, because no matter what your metabolism may be, we all need fat. No matter if you're overweight or not. You know, if you're trying to do this healthy, we want to have the healthiest form of fat. All right. And that's what our nuts can do with us. The other thing about nuts is that one of the things I like when I analyze foods is to see its electricity. All right. And what do I mean by that? Well, if a food is electric, people always look at acid or they like to look at acid and alkaline. I like to see what is the electricity. And a food that's electric, what that tells me is that that's a food that will ultimately bring healthy energy to us. And nuts do that. Nuts, for the most part, are an electric food. All right. They and I talked about this in a prior video, but essentially to kind of go over it again for those of you not familiar, an electric food is basically a food that is, another way of saying it, you probably heard of antioxidants, right? So antioxidant foods are foods that have a mineral that allows movement to happen in the body. So, for example, something like coconut water, which has potassium, is loaded with potassium, and potassium is that mineral that helps provide that electric movement in the body. All right, given its electrical charge. So nuts have that for the most part. Obviously, some nuts will probably have it better than others. But for the most part, if we're eating nuts as our source for nutrition, in terms of getting our healthy fats, we're going to have good electric movement in the body. So if we have good electric movement in the body, basically what does that allow for, or doesn't allow for? Inflammation. See, when we don't have good electric movement in the body, that can create inflammation, and that can lead to not only pain and discomfort, but then it can also graduate into other advanced diseases. All right. So nuts are really important in that sense. Now, what are my top nuts? All right. Well, I listed 5 here, and these are both from as a chef, working with nuts pretty much on a daily basis. I'm also factoring in convenience, and I'm also factoring in nutrition. Now, just like fruits and vegetables and there's probably a gazillion nuts with a gazillion different varieties, but I'm gonna just limit it to the 5 that I use most often, that I can pretty much do almost anything I want from a chef perspective. All right, so my top number 1 nut shouldn't be no surprise. Actually, let's start with 5. And we'll work our way up to 1. But y'all probably can guess what number 1 is. That's if y'all been following me for any stretch of time, y'all could probably imagine what number 1 is. So let's start with 5. Let's build the anticipation up. Number 5, coming in at 5, is the cashew. Now, cashews, I had to include this on this list. Cashews are probably the least healthiest nut. That's why it's coming in at number 5. But cashews, now I categorize my tree nuts in 2 different categories. I have the white nuts and I have the brown nuts. Cashew is obviously one of the white nuts, and the 3 most common white nuts that I use are the cashew, the pine nut, and the macadamia. Those are all what would be considered the white nut, or white nuts. But the cashew, the reason why I put it in here is because it's just really, really, really it's really versatile. You can use it to make a milk. You can use it to make a cheese. anybody who's had my food, any of my white sauces. So I like to do a white sauce, a red sauce, or if you're taking a class with me, it's all about the sauces, right? So when you're able to, because of cashew's versatility, and also a lot of these nuts, you pay a premium, and cashews tend to be on the lower price of things. Now, the other thing that cashews get a bad rap for is that they say that cashews are not truly a raw food. Now, again, there's a controversy there. You can if you're really about 100% raw, there are companies that sell truly raw cashews, and I could say that there is a difference. The cashews that at least are claimed truly raw, and I'm not 100% familiar. I've heard some things that they got to cook, because I know, I mean, I'm sure y'all have seen the cashew fruit, where the cashew nut comes from. It's like a red, almost looks like an apple, and then it has the cashew nut is actually on this. You could Google for the picture if you've never seen it before. If you've never had the cashew fruit, that's definitely an experience that you should try to have. Put on your list if you're ever traveling to like tropical countries. I think the last time I had it and fresh was when I was in Brazil. So, places like that, you can get obviously, because cashew is considered for the most part an exotic fruit. I've seen it locally here in the international markets, but you would have to get it. They would have it in the frozen section, so the whole fruit would be intact, like the red apple part. And it's not firm like an apple. It's more like maybe kind of like a mango in a sense, but not with the mango flavor. It has its own vibe. And then you have obviously the cashew nut. But the cashew, as far as a nut is concerned, as far as being a chef, a very versatile nut, should be in any raw kitchen. One of my signature recipes is my cashew cheesecake. I've tried it with other white nuts. It doesn't work. On the nutrition side, it's probably at the bottom, as far as like a nutritious nut. But it is versatile and it serves its purpose. The cashew. All right, coming in at number 4, the pecan, or the pecan, as some people call it. One of my favorite nuts is actually on the John Hopkins antioxidant list, which again, the higher an antioxidant, they have the ORAC level. So you can Google this, ORAC, ORAC. And basically, this was an experiment set up by scientists to discover their antioxidant level. And I believe the pecan came in at the highest. So the pecans are, I love the flavor of the pecan. They may be the healthiest nut in terms of antioxidant ability. And they do also have a strong flavor, and they have a versatility, not as versatile as the cashew in the sense of what we can do: sauces, milks, creams, desserts, etc. But the pecan is definitely one of my go-tos. It's pretty much, I have this pecan cookie that I love. And actually, I decided that I'm going to do pecan pie this year. If y'all ordering for Thanksgiving, I believe pecan pie is going to be coming in as one of the desserts. So I'm looking forward to that. I haven't done that in years. I think, I mean, it's kind of nutty because you got pecan crust on top of pecan filler. So it's kind of dense, but I'm going to figure out a way to make it light. All right. So I'm up for that challenge. So stay tuned for that if y'all local to the area, and be definitely taking orders for Thanksgiving. So yeah, pecan pie. So on to the next number three, and number three. I mean, these are all my favorite nuts. And but obviously I got them ranked in a certain order here. So coming in at number three is the macadamia nut. Again, one of my favorite nuts. Supposedly, macadamias are supposed to have the highest fat content. So when you're working with macadamia nuts, it's going to be like they make the best milk. I've made nuts with almost every kind of milk. Macadamias come in at number one. If you want to make the best nut milk, blend up some macadamia nuts with some coconut water. And that's really all you have to do. Macadamia nuts, coconut water, run it through a strainer, or, well, you have to run it through a cloth and squeeze it out. Now, the challenge is going to be, because it's so creamy and so fat, that oil is gonna the oil from the macadamia nut is gonna be some work, but trust me, it is gonna be well worth it, because there's no milk that's gonna be as creamy. And of course, the key word in that is cream. So obviously macadamia is also makes the best cream. Again, for most of us, our budget is cashew. But if your money is right for a particular time, and you can upgrade to the macadamia for your cashew on your your cheese, for your pizza, or your cream, for your dressing, or your milk, macadamia would be the way to go. Now, one thing I will say is that I did try using macadamias once for the cheesecake, and I gotta say that I like the cashew version better. I was really surprised, and I know part of it was like I pretty much did the same recipe, and because the macadamia has a different. Now, macadamia is a white nut, so it was safe to use in exchange, to sort of plug and play, and saying like, okay, remove the cashew, put it in the macadamia. But because the macadamia has a very different nutritional profile, as far as it's again, it's creamier. It has, the cashews are a lot sweeter than the macadamia. So I needed to tweak the recipe, which I didn't. So again, and part of it is like macadamias are so expensive. I don't have really much room to be experimenting so much with it. But yeah, I'm sure if I tinkered with it enough, I could make a definitely bomb.com macadamia cheesecake, believe it. But yeah, the macadamia nut coming in at number three. Number two, which is maybe surprising, actually, looking at my list, but no, it's not at all, is the almond. And almond is coming in at number two. Similar, not so much for its nutritional qualities, more so for its versatile qualities, similar to the cashew. I mean, I use a lot of almonds for a lot of different recipes, and I really love to use almond butter, raw almond butter. I use that for as a base for a lot of my dressings. So I'm really sort of biased. It was really the chef in me that put almond at number two. All right. But almonds, as we know, again, is very versatile. I got a chance to years ago in Jamaica. I got to really see a true almond. Yeah, obviously almonds grow in Jamaica. You have almond trees pretty much throughout the island, but they pretty much don't harvest the natural almonds. I mean, it's a big job. It's a hard, like, it's a big process to get to the nut. But they had like sort of the almonds we get from California, these round, and they're kind of bred so that they can process easy. But those Jamaican almonds were thinner. You can tell the nutrition was definitely a higher quality nut. And again, I mean, anytime you get privy to use these things, again, making milks or creams or sauces or dressings or pates is going to be a higher vibration. It's going to like definitely come through in the food. So almonds coming in at number 2, and number 1 should be no surprise to anyone, is the coconut. Now the coconut, I mean, it's really kind of unfair because the coconut is really it's really in a class by itself. I really shouldn't even have it on this list, but I had to put it up because number 1, nut is part of the name coconut. Um, coconut would probably be even my top fruit because I'm like, coconut is a fruit and a nut. Some people call it a drupe, and you can look up the definition of drupe, but just in terms of, I guess that's more of a botanical definition, or term in terms of classifying it in a certain category. But I put coconut at the top. I mean, you got the top water, you got the meat. um I mean, what more can you get from a food that can hydrate you at the best level, but then also nourish you with the meat? And you got different stages of meat. You got jelly, then you have more of the firmer flesh, and then you got the hard flesh, which can be used for all kinds of different things. Just the ultimate top food. Again, should be no surprise that coconut comes in at number 1. So those are my top nuts: cashew, pecan, macadamia, almond, coconuts. Maybe I should mention some honorable mentions. Walnut. Walnut is a powerhouse. Some Brazil nut. Brazil nut, definitely. I don't eat it. I don't eat enough. Brazil nuts are just, again, I mean, it's going to be important for you to experiment. Over the years, I've had years, and I've sort of whittled down my list, but I've done it all with all of the nuts: hazelnuts, Brazil nuts. Um, Obviously, these nuts have sort of made the cut over the years, but I mean, you got, even in being in Africa, had tiger nut. I had that for the first time. What are some other nuts? But yeah, well, I gave you my top 5, and obviously, look, now on to the tips. Let's get on to the tips, because as I mentioned, I really try to lay out the importance of nuts, why we need nuts in our diet, um, and how now the conversation turns to, how do we implement nuts effectively and efficiently in our diet? What are my top tips in terms of really integrating the nuts in the best healthy way? Now, let me go back to my beginning of my raw journey 22 years ago now. um I remember, it was like, all right, the first thing I said to myself is like, I'm going to eat what I like. And basically at that time, it was like, I'm not even looking at the vegetables. I'm like, I'm just going to eat bananas and mangoes and basically fruit, right? I'm like, look, this is easy. I ain't got very little preparation. I could just buy the fruit. If it needs to ripen, it'll ripe, and I'll just eat. So obviously, as I said in the beginning of this video, you're eating a lot of these kind of fruits, especially sweet fruits. They're going to be basically packaged water, right? The best form of water And I'm gonna get into that in a second. You know, the H3O2 that's, you know, become the new buzz term. But if you're eating a lot of these fruits, you're essentially on a fast because you're getting 80-90% water, and it's really gonna detox you. I mean, fruits like those high moisture fruits are pretty much there's very little nourishment happening, which again could serve a purpose, right? If you're trying to do that. But at a certain point, it's like, okay, like I said, I gotta eat something that's gonna stay on my stomach for more than 20 minutes. I gotta eat something nourishing of a nourishing quality, right? So the thing with the nuts, and again, this has to do with the harvesting and the processing. Enzyme inhibitors are created, right? So a lot of these nuts, again, I mean, we're talking about fresh food and I mean, because these nuts are processed in a way to give them a shelf life, it's like they become unfresh. And so for obviously our bodies to maximize and make it effective in terms of a healthy nourishing food, we have to make them fresh. So the top tip with nuts is that we have to soak the nuts. We have to soak the nuts, especially the brown skin nuts. Now, if you've taken classes from me in the past, I'm on record for saying that don't soak the white nuts. Now, that is purely from a chef perspective and purely not the best nutritional advice. All right. And I say that because now let me finish up on why we soak our nuts. We soak the nuts obviously to release the enzyme inhibitors, to create basically a freshness of the nut, to make it nutritionally bioavailable in the system. It releases the dormancy due to the processing of the nut, so the nut can allow the nut to have a shelf life. And by bringing that moisture in, soaking the nuts, it's like, again, we're re-energizing, we're releasing the dormancy, and that's better for us. All right. Now, why do I say don't soak your white nuts? Well, again, you should soak your white nuts too. But, you know, along my chef journeys, what happens with the white nuts? And what are the white nuts again? The cashews, the macadamia nuts, and the pine nuts. What happens is that, and this is different than like brown nuts. When I mean, what are the brown nuts? Almonds, Brazil nuts. They tend to have a brown covering. So almonds, pecans, walnuts, etc. All right, you get it. And so typically with the white nuts, that would be the nut that I would use again to make my creams, to make my whether it be sweet, like as again cashew cheesecake, cashew cream, or more so a dressing or even a milk. I mean, I could do obviously I could do almond milk, and you do milk with the brown nuts as well. But typically, more often times than not, like I wasn't making pates with the white nuts. And if I'm doing a cream or a sauce, I'm adding what to make it a cream or a sauce? I'm adding water. So my justification with the white nuts is that I'm using water on the back end. Because what happens when you soak the white nuts is that you tend to lose some of those oils, some of that essence through the soaking of the white nuts. For whatever reason, when you soak cashews, macadamia nuts, pine nuts, the nuts lose some of that essence through the soaking because you want to drain that water and you rinse it, and it's like you're rinsing some of that essence off the nut. So by basically not soaking them, the flavor and the taste is going to be at a higher vibration from a taste perspective, from a chef perspective. Okay. So again, that decision is up to you. Certainly if you're, you're dealing with like health issues and your vibration in terms of your energy, your digestive fire is weak, then you can sacrifice. You're not in a position to go without soaking all of your nuts. Okay. I thought of another tip. I'm gonna and this is for those that because I want to spend some time on those that y'all, because I've helped some people. If you have if nut is an allergen for you, so I just want to make a mental note about that. I want to make sure I don't forget that. If you're allergic to any of the nuts, I'm gonna give you the tips on what to do and how to overcome your nut allergy. But let's go over the other tips. All right, so we should be clear on why we should soak all of our nuts, including our white nuts. But if your nutritional firepower is good and you don't want to, you can sacrifice a few enzymes in terms of processing these nuts, then I say don't soak your white nuts. Definitely always soak the brown nuts without question. All right, the second tip, and again, this goes back to my story didn't finish when I first started this journey. I said I'm gonna just eat what I like. So after I basically got hungry enough to say, okay, I can't just eat fruit anymore. I got to eat something else. Coming off a cooked food diet, right? Basically, and this is why one of my tips, I say you got to become green. I said that as when we talked about the 5 steps to becoming and staying raw, one of the most important ones is to become green. And what does that mean? We got to get used to eating more bitter green leafy vegetables, bitter green foods, whether they be more of the herbs or the actual green leaves like kale, collard, mustard, spinach, lettuces, some of your cilantro and parsley, and all of your green culinary herbs, all of your green leafy vegetables. This is important because, again, coming off a cooked food diet, and when you're going into a raw, you're still all of your whole body is made up of cooked food, and you're gonna want to eat the food that sort of not reminds you, but in terms of bringing in what you've been used to. Because I always say you are what you eat, but then it turns around and you eat what you are. So your cravings you're still going to have cooked food cravings. So you're not going to crave the bitter green leaves because you're made up of cooked food. And those bitter greens are the true alkaline minerals that you need to sort of reprogram. And that's why you gotta detox, because you have to rewire that whole system. All right, and that's going to take at least a year. I find that people, if they can get definitely past that 6-month period, because when you're craving, especially, and it's all of us, it's the cooked starches. That's the number one. When you're craving the pastas and the rices and the potatoes and the breads, this is empty food, empty nutrition that is just paste. And what we do is we dress it, we salt it, we flavor it, and it's a lie. And so when you can do at least 6 months without that cooked empty starch, and you taste, let's say you say, all right, let me taste this pasta or let me taste this bread. It will taste you will see it will become exposed. You will taste it for what it is, which is nothing. You'll be chewing and you'll be like, where's the what is this that I'm eating in my mouth? Okay, but that doesn't happen right away. It take at least 6 months. All right, and where the the starches fill in terms of like, because those are the false fillers. So now we have to replace that with real fillers, and that's the green leafy vegetables. So when we're able to do that, I mean, right off the bat, you're talking about replacing a white empty food. Usually these starches are white empty nothing, and now you're talking about replacing that with dark green chlorophyll nutrition, real nutrition. Okay, so why am I talking? I mean, we're supposed to be talking about nuts. This is important because the next step, because when I was eating my fruit and I was hungry and I was like, okay, what am I going to eat now? What did I have? I had a big bag of nuts. And that's my top tip number 2, because that's dangerous. Do not use nuts or seeds for that matter as a snack. And they got those trail mixes. Dangerous. These are not fresh living foods. Yes, they may be plant-based and they're fruits and nuts, and it sounds good, but the trail mixes and the dry nuts and the snack bag, and you're just popping them in, dangerous. Acidic. Okay, and even if they're soaked. So that's my next top tip. So I wanted to build that up because 22 years ago, when I started this path and I was eating my fruits and everything was cool, but I was like, all right, now it's time to eat. And I wasn't the raw chef that I am today, nowhere near close. And I'm like, okay, let me get my nuts because I'm hungry and I need something to sit on my stomach for longer than 20 minutes. And then I'm eating my nuts, and then what happens? Constipation. It's like two extremes. I went from one extreme to the high water moisture fruits that basically package water, to fat in a form that's not living, and fiber that's going to block my colon, block my whole digestion, and constipation because of the nuts. So tip number 2, never find yourself with a bag of nuts. And so that leads to tip number 3. And this is why part of the 5 steps to becoming and staying raw is that you've got to become a little bit of a chef. And so top number 3 is that we have to not only soak the nuts, but then take those soaked nuts and combine them in a way that is going to balance them. Because nuts in and of themselves are really a super dense food. Probably even more dense in the sense than, meat and cheese and animal products. Nuts, and this is why I even feel that nuts are probably the top allergen food. We're gonna get into allergen and people who are who have nut allergies, and how again there's ways, there's strategies to overcome the nut allergies, and I'm gonna give y'all my tips and my experiences with that. Okay, so in terms of combining them, what I mean by that is one, you combining it with water and making your nut milks. That can be is probably the best combination. And not just water, coconut water. Because now you ain't gotta add nothing to it. You know, I'm not an advocate of spring water or any type of pipe water, as I call it. Coconut water is the ideal water. Especially is great with combining with just about any coconut, almonds, pecans, and the top one, macadamia. For the creamiest nut milk is your macadamia nut milk for sure. So that's like your top way to make sure, again, and obviously soaking it first. What's another way? Well, I mean, this is, one of my signature recipes. So let me talk y'all through this because I was able to come up with the recipe not because I was following other recipes or really because of how this very thinking that I'm sharing with y'all tonight is that when we see the nuts, especially on the acid alkaline scale, our nuts, most of them come in as slightly or even acidic, just acidic, right? So if we're eating nuts, obviously these are acid forming foods. Now, it doesn't make them bad foods. It just says that these are foods that need to be balanced with alkaline foods. And what are alkaline foods? Well, I mean, fruits are pretty much in the middle for the most part. And our alkaline foods are for the most part, are green herbs and leafy vegetables. So when I was like wanting to do a nut pate or a nut burger, it's like, well, how can I balance this? And balance this nutritionally, and then also at the same time not make it so dense. Nuts can be so dense. Let's make it light and flavorful where you still get the nut nutrition and energy and the filler that I want, right? Those healthy oils, the healthy density, nutrition. I talked about the electricity, but at the same time balancing it. So I would take the nuts and I would grind them down to pretty much not a flour, but pretty much, let's say, a flour. I can't come up with another word. And I would, like in a food processor. So I'd take like maybe a cup or two of soaked nuts, grind them down, and then I'd add my green leafy herbs. Today, for most times, I use parsley. So I'll use basically almost like a 1-to-1 relationship. So if I have 1 cup of almonds, let's say, I'm using 1 cup of parsley or 1 cup of cilantro. One of those 2 herbs usually. I can't think of another herb. I mean, they have different types of parsleys, and so either one, right? And in that sense, I'm balancing it right there. But I'm not stopping there. I'm adding fresh onion. I'm adding bell pepper. And that's pretty much the recipe. That's like sort of the breakdown. And among there's a couple of other ingredients but as far as the really the foundation that creates the balance, and obviously those of y'all that know, like, the hemp burger is really that, and then I add hemp seeds. The hemp seeds sort of give it that extra protein kick, because hemp seeds, as we know, is very high in protein, very dense seed. And it really it really combines well with the nut. Okay, because the nuts tend to be a little more sweet tasting, and the seeds tend to be a little more bitter tasting, and when they come together, it just works. So again, I wanted to take y'all through that because it's like now I'm taking different like complementary foods, combining it with the nut in an intelligent way and I'm really able to enjoy it and not feel like, wow, I'm eating this dense nut. Even the cheesecake, the cashew cheesecake, it's probably more fruit in the actual cheese part of the cheesecake than it is cashew, and it has a lightness to it. So you still enjoy the cashew, or you still get the benefits that the cashew brings, and it still tastes creamy enough, but it's not like, I don't know, if those of you who've had the cheesecake, I'm sure you can attest. So those are my top tips. Now, what to do if you have an allergy, a nut allergy. And this is critical. Actually, my two boys, they're both allergic to nuts. And it could be tricky with children. Um, Obviously, it's like you don't want to be, I mean, you want to be smart, but you don't want to be so fearful that, like, because I mean people can die, like I've been witness to that. Like, I've seen that happen, where someone has a nut allergy and they can actually kill over and die if it's too much. So it's very, very serious. But it doesn't mean that it can, like it's a life sentence. And as I've said, I've helped people with overcoming nut allergies. Now, my theory on why you can reverse this and why this is not a life sentence is that I feel that a lot of, when we're not introduced to these types of foods, at least one reason why someone could have a nut allergy is that um, because we have so many other choices of where we would get like some of the things that we would get from nuts, like those fats and those minerals that we may get from some other food source, like maybe these animal products. Then I feel as though our body turns off what it needs to process a nut, and it becomes there's a reaction because the body has lost either its memory or basically has just turned off for its own convenience. So it's like, how do we turn that back on? Now, one of the first tips I'll share is to actually try, definitely soaking your nuts, but then adding food grade hydrogen peroxide to the solution, to the water. Now, what is that doing? Now, food grade hydrogen peroxide, and these are not, and I want to stress food grade. Uh, that chemical grade hydrogen peroxide that we get from drugstores, that is not to be used. That is not to be ingested. Again, they put chemicals in there that are not suitable for consumption in those brown bottle hydrogen peroxide. But even if we were just to think about those brown bottles, and when like, let's say we use it to disinfect a cut, hydrogen peroxide is H2O2. So it has almost water, which is H2O, but an extra oxygen molecule or oxygen component that that serves as again that energy that it's bringing that extra oxygen. So when we add food grade hydrogen peroxide, and I'm sure you can order it online. There's some health food stores that sell food grade hydrogen peroxide. You have to be careful with food grade hydrogen peroxide because um, I personally have, actually, I know I have some. I should have, well, I didn't know I was going to talk about it. I would have showed y'all the bottle that I have. But the bottle that I have, I know for a fact that it's at 12% food grade. Now, what does that mean? Well, the bottles, the brown bottles that you buy in the drugstore, those are almost always at 3%. So 12% is 4 times stronger. And we know that 3% bottle is pretty strong. Like if you poured it on your skin, you had an open wound, you see it bubble up. Like if you pour that 12, if some of that 12% food grade hydrogen peroxide hit your skin, it will temporarily bleach your skin. Like you'll see your skin turn like white. Like it will turn like white, like the color white, for a few seconds. It is extremely strong. It will actually like burn you. So you only need like a few drops, but that extra oxygen can be the difference. Uh, uh, some customers shared that with me years ago when I started. It's like they asked me, "Do you soak your nuts? Do you use food grade hydrogen peroxide in the solution?" I said, "Wow, I didn't know. I didn't know." So passing that information on. If you're allergic to nuts, again, try using food grade hydrogen peroxide. They also have 35%. So again, you got 3%, which is most common. You got 12%. And then I've also had 35, and 35% is obviously very, very, very strong. You should probably wear gloves. Again, it can burn. I mean, it's not like super duper toxic. It's not gonna like, but pretty much handling, like, I mean, if you're work, because I mean this is like a natural form of bleach. I mean, we work with bleach, it's like we don't want it to splash on the clothes. It's like we see it later, or we see it, you know something like that. But the 35%, I mean, obviously is very dense, it's very concentrated, it's 10 times stronger than the 3%. The 12% is 4 times stronger. Simple math. 3 times 4 is 12. So the 35%, very strong. We could throw, like, if you got like a gallon of water, maybe a cap full, and a cap like maybe a half an ounce or an ounce at the most. That should do the job. That should really neutralize and really bring some oxygen. It's gonna oxygenate the water, which is gonna oxygenate the nuts, is making them more easy to digest and process. So again, very, strong tip. Now, if you're the other tip for those that have allergies is typically there may be certain nuts that you're more allergic to than others. So what I say to that person is to basically make a habit of eating the nuts that you're not allergic to, and the nuts that you may be allergic to. Every once in a while, do a test. You can't be afraid. Sometimes you got to take a leap of faith. And again, if you're soaking it, you're using the hydrogen peroxide, food grade hydrogen peroxide, to soak the nut, then that can be, just the help you need to sort of allow your body to turn on those receptive energies, that digestive energy, whatever is turned off, that is not allowing your body to process it. Again, we want to sort of try to wake them up. So we got to test it. So typically almonds, um, again, it's different with everybody. I mean, some people can be definitely allergic to walnuts, and I found that Brazil nuts are can be really tough for a lot of people. The almonds, I think, are more on the safe side. I've heard more people being like able to process almonds than not. Cashews is probably 50-50. Um, but again, like I said, and then also the seeds, because the seeds tend to be on the non-allergen side. There are some seeds. I had a customer who was like seriously allergic to hemp seeds, and that really came off as surprising to me, because hemp seeds being probably one of the top nutritious seeds, very much, and very much alkaline in the sense of the mineral content in hemp seeds. I mean, it's loaded, it's powerhouse. nutritionally. So that really was surprising. Yeah, so the hemp seeds, but for most people, seeds tend to be non-allergen, and so it's like you can, but seeds are not going to give you. Again, seeds tend to be more bitter tasting. Nuts tend to be more sweet. So what I like to do in my recipes, sometimes if it calls for it, is to sort of combine the two, so I get the best of both worlds, right? So, but if you just happen to be, in terms of the nuts, again, you find a seed that maybe can come closer to the end and use a seed as a replacement. Like if you find a recipe, like a nut recipe for pate, or some type of either, whether it be a sauce or a dressing or a milk, even, like you can replace it with the seed, and again, not get quite that same hit, that same oil, or that same flavor that the nut can do, but it's like, it's in the ballpark. And if you do more of it, again, it's like you want to test it, like you want to test your body. And again, this is, I gotta say it as a disclaimer. Even though this is nutritional advice, you know, beware. Don't come for me if something bad happens. Really take precautions. So again, I just want to cover myself, because I know that this is a very serious issue. But I do feel confident enough to say, to stand behind that, and to say, if you do fall in that category, again, just be smart. Be smart. And I've seen this work. So I feel confident enough to not be scared enough not to share that, because I don't feel like, I feel confident that, having a nut allergy, that can be reversed with time. And again, it's also about really, strengthening our digestive energies. And we can do that with a lot of green juices, and just juicing in general, because really, a lot of our systems are weak and compromised because they've just been overworked. And this is why we always got to come back to juice. All right, so that's really a good segue. I'm really spending a lot of time. I'm over an hour at this point, but I haven't been on in a few months, and so I really miss coming on. And but life has really been hectic for me. I wanted to come on in July. For those of y'all maybe who don't follow me on social media, I turned 50 this year. So shout out to me, turning half 100. If I had like a little sound bite, I'd play it right now. But I wanted to come on and share my 50 years, but no time like the present. So yeah, I did turn 50 this past July. So that was a big moment for me. And we're going to segue into the fall equinox. Every time when I come on, I definitely try to come on. And actually, I don't think I came on for the summer solstice. No, I don't think I came on for that. So it's been a while. It's been a minute. I'm going to really try to make more of an effort between now, especially as we move into the end of the year, to really be more consistent on here. Again, I really appreciate y'all tuning in, y'all comments and following, subscribing. I did also want to share. There was a text that I got from a follower. If I pull it up, I wanted to share. It was a great heartfelt comment that really re-inspired me to come on. I think I was really caught up in like my work, and it's been a lot. It's been very it's been stressful for sure. But as I've said about stress, I don't buy into the stress argument that stress is the killer and stress is this, that, and the other. Life is stress. It's meant to be stressful, and we can't achieve or improve on anything without stress. Exercise is stress. So this, being healthy allows us to endure the stress. We want to welcome stress, good, bad, or ugly. Whether it shocks you, if there's a sudden event or whatever, that happens either with you or a close member of your circle or your family, or, life throws you different stressors. These are blessings in disguise. Ultimately, everything is written. That's one of my mottos. Everything is written. Nothing is by coincidence. It's all by divine design. And when we encounter stress, and this has certainly been, if sometimes I share on some of my personal journeys with business and otherwise, and this year has been a top year for that. So been adjusting and focusing my energies in a certain way. So but yeah, I want to make more of a habit of being on here more consistent. I feel like definitely, the more I'm on here, the better I'm able to deliver the information, gather my thoughts, and just really spread the good word and the good message. So again, I appreciate y'all. So fall equinox. Well, again, we talk about it, and I rank them, because we look at the pivot points. Now, today I was talking to one of my regular juice customers, and I was really trying to give him the knowledge and the science, but what came out was really important. I wanted to share. I was like, man, I got to talk about this on the live stream. The rhythm. It's all about, when we talk about just really health and life in general, it's about establishing a healthy rhythm. And when we look at the fall equinox, it's one of the corner pivot points of the fall, the changes of seasons. But really, I mean, we got onto it by really looking at all of the cycles within the cycles, because being in rhythm is basically understanding the cycles first and foremost. And when we see the cycle, we want to be in rhythm with the cycle. So we got to be conscious and aware of the cycle that we're in. At least on a level where it's like, okay, I do this at this point in the cycle, right? So if you do this or do that in this point in the cycle, then you're going to be more effective. If it's at an effective point in that cycle, and vice versa, non-effective is if it's at a week or a point in the cycle that is not conducive for that action, right? So, for example, I mean, it's I'm in East Coast, United States. It's 10 going on 11 p.m. This is not a point in the 24-hour cycle for me to ingest food. It's not an ideal point in this cycle. So given and saying that, again, if we want to just really look at all of the cycles, and then we build up to the fall equinox, we talking about first and foremost the 24-hour cycles. And obviously it's infinite cycles. The cycles within cycle, and it's to infinity. But for the most part, as far as our living is concerned, our most basic elementary cycle is the 24-hour cycle, right? So within a 24-hour cycle, we should be only eating. And when I say eating, I don't mean ingesting. I mean eating in terms of like predominantly fat and protein dominant foods. Foods that are, again, going to stay on your stomach for at least an hour or so, right? So we should only be doing that once a day or once in a 24-hour cycle. Okay, we want to give our body a full 23, 24 hours to process that food or that meal. And again, talking about nuts tonight. So that meal that would probably include nuts if you're doing vegan and raw vegan, healthy foods, nut pates, etc. We want to have that meal, and ideally at the same time or similar time that day. Now, what is the ideal time period? Well, one, it depends on when you wake up within that 24-hour cycle. So let's say I usually get up somewhere between 6 a.m. and 7 a.m. So let's take it on the early side of it. If I get up at 6 a.m., for the most part, I'm going to have my meal probably somewhere between not earlier than 2 and probably not later than 5 or 6. So that's when I'm going to have my meal. So I'm going to have it roughly, what is that, 12 to, no, not 12, 8 or 10 to 12 or 8 to, after I wake up, what is that, 6 to 2? That's 8 hours. 8 to 12 hour after I wake up. Some people may wake up at 4 o'clock. So again, that pushed that time window a little earlier. So if you wake up at 4 a.m., okay, 12 noon, I wouldn't have anything before 12 noon. All right. So, and then also, it also determines how active you are in those morning hours. All of us should have some sort of physical activity in that first period of the day. All right, like that first 8 hours, there should be some exercise, whether it's intentional, like any aerobic activity or yoga, stretching, or just part of your daily ritual. Your work or your job may you may be moving, lifting on your feet. I mean, it all counts. But for the most part, within a 24-hour cycle, we want to have that at least 8 hours after we wake up, at least, not before. And what are we doing within that 8 hours? Now that is a space where you can have your fruit juice, coconut water. If you, I mean, I'm very public with it. I start my day with my own water. And then I graduate to my coconut water. I get into my fruit juices and green juices. I may even do a sea moss smoothie or a nut smoothie, but I'm doing basically liquids, for that first part of that day, the at least that first 8 hours. I'm drinking maybe more than a half gallon for sure. And it's not even about the quantity per se. I'm getting at least, and I'm my urination is I mean, I'm definitely hydrated for sure. And then I wait for hunger to happen, before. And obviously, the more active I am in that first part of the day will determine my hunger. It also determine, like, from what, if I ate heavy or I ate light. Because actually today I did eat, but it was very light. I had an avocado, I had some kimchi, I had some kale, and that was pretty much it. And it wasn't a whole lot. Like, I really felt like I didn't need like heavy, like a big meal. And so it wouldn't necessarily count as a fasting day, but definitely a light day nonetheless. And full of energy. It didn't take a lot of energy for my body to process that. And then after I process that meal, my body digests it at least after an hour, 2 hours, and then I go back to juices. Okay, so I start the day with juices, I finish the day with juices. And I do that pretty much most days. Now, at least one day a week. Now, the next cycle is the weekly cycle. At least one day a week. Like, it's just juice all through the day. Okay, so it's never like that heavy meal. All right. And because I want to give my body at least one day, at least one. Now you could do 2 or 3, but at least one day a week. And it should be this, just like it should be the same time of day, it should be the same day of the week. So whatever that day, and I've talked about this in prior videos, I talked about it from an astrological perspective. Um, but I'll just say really quickly for that, I even from an astrological perspective, uh, like if I was to analyze your astrological chart, for probably 80 to 90% of the people, it should be either Saturday or Sunday. And even so, even from an astrological, like those 2 days, for the most part, a lot of what happens in modern day society happens Monday through Friday. So we're doing a lot of activity that doesn't allow us necessarily the pleasures of a rest, because that also is what should go with it. For most people who work, we have school set up Monday through Friday for the most part. So for most of us, that day should be Saturday or Sunday. For me personally, it's been Sunday. One of my first jobs, the restaurant I was working in, we would close on Sundays, so it was really easy and natural. And I mean, this was like 15 years ago when I got started with this on a more professional level. So because we were closed on Sundays, it was like, well, I don't have to make food for the public, so I won't make food for me either. And it just kind of stuck. But then even astrologically, like look, knowing my chart, like Sunday, which is the day of the sun, is actually a good day for me, even from a more spiritual perspective in terms of the sun's energy from an astrological perspective. So so I do that for people. If anyone's interested, y'all can hit me up if y'all want to get that personalized recommendation. Um that is but like I said, for the most part, it'll either be Saturday, Sunday. And then the other thing is like, what is convenient? I mean, you could look at your life and say, well, Wednesdays are a good day for me. Wednesdays work in terms of my work life, my everything that's happening with me. So you want to be sort of aware. You don't necessarily need um guidance from me per se, but whatever day works best for you, it should be that day, and it should be that day every week. And like I said, it's been years of I just don't eat on Sundays, and it just becomes like I don't have an appetite. I can't even eat. I can't even force myself. Even if I don't eat on Saturday, I'm still not hungry on Sunday. So you want to, again, these are the habits that are a part of the magic process, because there are no magic pills. People always want the magic pill. They want the magic herb. They want the magic sea moss. They want the magic this, that, and the third, right? There are no magic pills out there for you that's going to help you become healthier. And that's just a fact. There are only magic processes. And this is, and the game that I'm giving right now is part of the magic process. In fact, eating once a day, right? Same time every day, at least one day a week, okay? Where we just juice, just coconut water. What's the next cycle? The next cycle is the lunar cycle, the monthly cycle. And especially talking to the women, especially right now, because whether you're whether you're a birth giving age or you graduated, you still have a moon. You're still connected to that energy more than men, for sure. So for women, you should definitely be every month, every month. Now you could be doing it with your moon cycle, or you can actually be fasting with the moon. Like, say for example, if you're gonna fast with the actual moon, I would say fast with the new moon and not the full moon. Because the new moon, again, it's the new energy. and you want to really start that 28-day cycle with that with the beginning of that period. You could even like fast into the new moon, so it's like you're fasting into what is it called, waning moon. You're in the end, like the end days of the waning moon into the new moon, and then you bring that energy. So that's one idea. The other idea is the actual fast with your actual cycle, and I would more recommend that, because that is your actual period. And the thing is that whether you fast at the beginning, let's say day one, it's actually going to make that event much easier to deal with. If you know, for those of y'all that are having, whether it's mood swings or cramps or heavy bleeding, these are all not good things. Ultimately, not good for your reproductive health, not good for your sexual health, and not good for your health overall. And so us, as far as the men, now men, we can fast with the moon cycle, but it's much more, the thing is, like, as men, it's more important for us, or more advisable us, that's a better word, to fast. Like, we can get away with not having to fast every month. Why is that? Well, one, we're not naturally connected to the moon in the same way that women are. That's number one. Number two, because of that, we carry more heat in our body. So we can get away with not doing that longer period fast. Because the thing is, like, with the moon cycle, so we talked about like eating, because like, okay, with the 24-hour cycle, we're eating once a day. So we're essentially fasting for 23, 24 hours, right? And then with the 1 day a week, that could be 36 to 48 hours between one meal and the next meal. Really 48 hours if you're eating the same time every day. Like, if I'm fasting on Sunday, I have my meal at 2 p.m. Saturday, and then I'm not eating until 2 p.m. on Monday. That's a 48-hour fast, right? So now when we talk about the monthly fast, that should be at least 3 days. At least 3 days. And so, and this is including, again, eating once a day, 6 times a week maximum. And then, of course, doing at least 3 to 5 days every month. Now, if every woman did that, like, I mean, because it's cumulative as well. I mean, you're talking about, like, how many days is that, like, that you fasted for the year? I mean, just doing 1 day a week, that's already 52 days. And then if you add other days, I mean, you're talking about maybe 100 days. That's 3 months. That, more than was that's 25% of the year at least, that again, almost 3 months. And if you're doing longer, 3 to 4 months, that's a significant amount of time that's like so much digestive energy that you saved, that now your body can use for other stuff. And it's so important, I think, especially again for the women, like, because the you don't have the same amount of heat as men, your metabolisms tend to be slower. Because of that, you can tend to create more residue within the body, i.e. waste. So you can afford to, again, fast more, and even for longer, because you're naturally going to carry more body fat. It's just, again, that's just the way God designed it, right? So for us men, now, again, like I said, men, we could fast with the moon. I don't necessarily recommend it, but we're I feel very strong, we're designed to fast with the sun. The sun is the male archetype king of the sky, and the moon is the queen, the matriarch. Well, yes, the matriarch, the patriarch, but the yin and yang, that's a better words, right? So with the sun, this is that time now. And now obviously the women can fast with the sun, with the quarter, the periods. But you know, that's my, if you're listening, definitely yes, you can fast during this equinox period, but definitely, connect with your moon cycle, or either the actual moon cycle, and start to be in rhythm with that, and every month, from here on out, and make that the practice. But as far as the equinox, now what's happening now? Well, um, what's happening is that now we're moving into the dark energy. Um, the days, at least in the inner, I mean, it's different for me to explain now. Recently becoming a follower of the flat Earth theory. So when I used to explain this, it was more for the globe theory, but I don't follow that theory anymore. Follow the flat Earth theory. So I'm going to use the language and the terminology from a flat Earth perspective. Yes, I do believe that we live on a flat plane. And one of the basic arguments that I present, because I do strongly feel that we live on a flat plane, is that if you fly across the world and the Earth is spinning at a certain speed, like the plane, like if I go to China, it takes 12 hours, right? And the Earth is spinning. So if the Earth is spinning east and I'm going to China, then it's actually, if the plane is in the air, the Earth is spinning away from the plane. So the trip should be longer if the Earth, like if the plane is going this way and the Earth is if spinning this way, then it's almost like the plane either got to go faster, or it's just going to take, the plane is obviously going faster than the Earth is spinning. If the Earth is spinning, then the trip back will be like this, and the Earth is going opposite than the plane is going. So the trip should be much shorter coming back, or much longer going to. But as we know, anybody that's flown on a different side of the world, that it takes the same amount of time going and coming. Like if the Earth is spinning at 1,000 miles per hour, like really the plane could just go up high enough. And obviously the plane shouldn't even have to fly nowhere if the Earth is spinning at 1,000 miles per hour. If it's spinning that fast, then all the planes have to do is just go up and wait for the Earth to spin and then land. But we know that don't happen. So that's like my top argument. And obviously people have comebacks for that. But anyway, I don't want to get belabored on that. I thought about bringing a guy. He has the Flat Earth app on and interviewing him for this channel, because I like his app because he includes the astrology, and he actually shows the zodiac. So for all of you astrologers out there that don't understand flat Earth, I mean, you really are missing it, because all of the planets are basically right above us. They're not millions of miles or thousands of miles away. No, they're only a couple thousand miles away. That's how they influence us. That's why astrology works. That's how we have these different tendencies and strengths and weaknesses and karma, because those star energies are close, and they influence us. And they're right here, right above us, spinning above us. The zodiac is spinning right above us. And the Earth is just this flat plane that extends out far beyond what we know and what they tell us. They just keep us condensed, or keep us contained in this like small amount of space that we see as planet Earth. Anyway, so looking at planet Earth from the flat plane perspective, right now, the Earth is, because what happens is with the flat Earth model, the sun rotates or travels in a circle over the sun. And during the summertime, it's traveling, like if we took the Earth and flattened it, we would have the North Pole in the center. Then, if we go out, we'd have the Tropic of Cancer as the next biggest circle. We have the equator outside of that, and then we have the Tropic of Capricorn. So we all know these lines, right? We see them on the globe. But if they're flattened, then the Tropic of Cancer is the smallest, the equator, and then Tropic of Capricorn. Now, during the summertime, where's the sun? When the sun is in Cancer, what? It's summertime for us, right? That's why it's called the Tropic of Cancer. So it's traveling over, literally over the Tropic of Cancer in the summertime, or within. That's why we have hotter temperatures, right? We have summertime. Right now, the sun is moving out over the equator. Again, equinox. And then it's ultimately moving out to the Tropic of Capricorn, where then it comes back to the equator and then repeats the cycle. So now it's moving further and further away from us. It's making bigger and bigger circles. We also see this, flat earthers have proven this theory, because what happens when it's making those bigger circles, the sun begins to travel faster. And how do we see that? We see that in places where, especially places where it is winter, where it's summer when we have winter, like for example, South Africa, which is, they're moving into spring and summer months, that their sunsets are a lot quicker. Like we experience long sunsets in the summertime because when the sun is over the Tropic of Cancer, it's a small circle, it's moving slow. So we have these long sunsets where people who live in the outer edge of the earth, when the sun is over there, the sun is moving a lot faster, the sunsets are a lot quicker. So again, so essentially for us, the sun is moving away from us. That's having an impact on us, obviously with the temperatures, but it's also having an impact on our digestive energy. And in addition to being like a pivot point as far as like traveling over the equator, going to the outer edge of the earth, again, that's having an impact on us, because of our digestive energy being affected. It's going to affect how we process food. And at least going into this last quarter of the year is certainly a tune-up. And if y'all been following me since last year, I did a 3-week. That's when I do my longer fast. So again, every quarter, especially for men, we want to be doing at least 3 days, but ideally 5 to 7 days. And I would say for the equinox, at least 5 days. At least 5 days, because the winter solstice, from my experience and my years of doing this, definitely the winter solstice is the top period to fast. If you're living in this part of the world, the above the equator or inside the equator, as we should say, during the winter solstice, the sun is furthest away from us. It's definitely a time for reset, spiritually, mentally, physically. Time to not eat or really go in too fast. Really give that body that reset, that rest. December is that month. So last year, I went in 3 weeks. I gave updates every couple of days. I know a couple of y'all participated. So really, this fall equinox is definitely the second most important time, because again, the energy is weakening, and as we get into the winter month, or we approach the winter solstice. But the dark energy, as I said, is really on the increase. We'll see the daylight hours decrease gradually into the winter months, and therefore it's really just a time not just to really think about the winter solstice, but really to more importantly, reflect on the past 9, 10 months, to really take stock of how this year went. I mean, I think it's really, at least for me, like to look at this year is like really done. We really, this is not a time of the year, or I should say, this is the time of the year for really reflection. Not necessarily a time of the year to say, okay, I'm going to start something or begin something. I mean, we're at the period of the cycle where, if we were on a 24-hour clock, this would be 6 p.m. or 9 p.m. We're moving, this is sunset, if we were on a 24-hour clock. So it's like, do we start, I mean, I know some people work at night, but ideally it's like we're getting ready for bed at this point, right? We're winding down. And for the year, we want to sort of take that approach for the year. It's like, okay, this is now a time for me to start to really wind down for the year, right? And really just, um, take stock, like how just like how my day went, how did my year go, and really start to make preparations for, we really should start thinking ahead to 2023. Um, I know this year I did a lot of script writing, journal writing. I mean, it's now time to, go back and see what it is. If you were doing the, doing your script writing, your meditation writing, all of these things is, definitely time now to take stock. And, really taking food out of the equation allows us to really do that in the best way, because it's like now, you know, one of the most powerful things I love about fasting is the mentality, or at least the mentality of fasting is like, you know, anytime we're trying to, like I said, whether it's our, whatever your goals, objectives are, when we fast, most of us are going to have hunger pain or hunger sensation, I should say, right? When you have that hunger sensation, you think about, you immediately bring your mind to whatever it is, whatever the meditation is, whatever, the I am, the I am, what, I am health and I am love and all of the positive vibrations you're trying to create in your life. That is when it is now, like when we fast, we couple that, those intentions with the fast, or with the hunger sensations especially. And then now we start to really, speed the process. And that's why I feel like, it's actually called a fast, because now those things, we really start to exercise our real power because of the sacrifice. I mean, we know we don't get anything in this world without any sacrifice. And when we make the sacrifice of food, and then we couple that with the meditation and the script writing and the, the visualizations and, the mental pictures that we're trying to create with the fasting, again, you start to become the true alchemist that we all designed to be, right? We start to make miracles happen because you're making the ultimate sacrifice. And the ultimate sacrifice is to not eat, or to at least eat differently or eat lighter. We basically bring in that electric water, right? That coconut water, that cucumber water, those fresh juices that we know about. So I think that's a good note to end on. I will look at any. I guess I'll take any questions or comments. I haven't. I mean, there's a lot of conversation here on the YouTube side of things. Yes. Peace out to Leonard. All tuning in from South Africa. Wow. What time is it there? So yeah, if there's any questions, anything, I'll spend a few minutes more But it's definitely late, winding down for me this evening. But I wanted to give y'all this time. Again, we're going on 2 hours. It's been a couple of months, so I know I owe that to really make a nice return and to really, give that energy to y'all. So but I pretty much covered. Again, you can go back. I'm gonna save this stream on the Instagram side, but definitely, if you're on YouTube, definitely hit me on, if you're not subscribed to me on Instagram, and then vice versa. On Instagram, hit me on YouTube. I know the sound wasn't as good as on the IG as it was the YouTube. So yeah. Shout out to my man, Benevolent Blizz. Looking forward to, appreciate the comment and the love. I'm sure your event was a success. We got to get back on here and do another stream soon. So yeah, that's my guy. Definitely love sharing the time with him. Oh yeah, somebody asked about the ice. So basically, somebody asked about the ice wall. Yeah, so with the flat earth, basically, I mean, I think the best way to think about, the earth is not a flat sphere in space. We don't really know what space is. We essentially live on a lake that extends out beyond the ice wall. Like I said, we don't know how far it goes out. It can go out to infinity as far for all we know. But for the most part, yeah, good comment. Again, definitely the flat earth is where it's at, and definitely increases your inner and understanding. Um, yeah, so my energy is about up. I know that, I apologize if y'all had a question, but I think I left it all out. As I said, they left it all out on the field. I left it all out. I left it all out. So yeah, my energy is up. If you have any other questions you want to comment below the video on the YouTube, then I'll get to it another day. Or you can send me a direct message on Instagram, or through the YouTube channel. And again, like the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel. Y'all have heard that before, I'm sure. Again, appreciate the love. Also, I'll be having some deals as well. Like I said, for the equinox. If you're not, I do have a email newsletter, so y'all can get on my website and punch your email if you want to get. Oh, and I have some unfortunate news as well. I know some of y'all may have been interested in a retreat. Unfortunately, I know I just broke my heart that I will not be doing a retreat this year for 2022. I would have definitely announced it by now. So we're gearing up for 2023. Fact is that I just don't have the support around me that I once had, where I was able to leave for a week or a few weeks. Right now, I'm really sort of rebuilding the ship as we speak. So it's like almost like a beginning point in the cycle, as I talked about before. But it's all good. Like I said, yeah, it's been very super stressful, but again, I welcome it. I appreciate it. It's always about the lesson and learning and growth. So I'm sharing that to inspire you wherever you at. You may be on your journey. You may be in a comfortable space, but I guess the lesson of that is it's always good to stay uncomfortable. Let's just put it like that. Stay uncomfortable. And we don't always have to bring the pain, but just like exercise, truly good exercise is uncomfortable, right? Good exercise that makes a difference is uncomfortable. So stay on your exercise, and it's great if But I know for me right now, the period I am in my cycle, I'm rebuilding. So that because I love the retreats, I love the sun and the paradise and the teaching that I can do and all of that, and to the intimacy of like having that time in a intentional time with a relatively small group of people, and we're like they're like focused on like one thing, one of two things for a week. So I'm really gonna miss it this year, but I know it's coming back. Whether it's 2023 or 2024, it's coming back. So again, wanted to just share if anyone was curious. I know I had some requests for that. So yes. So all right, we'll leave it there. Maybe I'll come back on next week right before the equinox to share some more inspiring words. But until then, again, like, share, subscribe. I appreciate y'all. Love y'all. One love.